Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl, aka I can't pick pitchers to save my life on Thursday's slate. Joined today by my buddy Keith Eister. Keith, what's happening, my friend?
Everything's happening tonight. I feel like we deserve double time for this podcast. We've got a tie playoff game in the NBA. We've got the middle of the first round of the NFL draft. So yeah, a lot going on today in addition to baseball. But Fridays are always nice big slates, so plenty of options here to get in and break down a nice big slate for Friday.
It's game 6, right?
It
Celtics
is,
win,
yeah.
it's over. Atlanta wins, they go to game 7. I mean, at this point, let's just go to game 7. NBA playoffs have not disappointed. Have not disappointed at all
Last
to
night was
start the year.
awesome. That
Oh, yeah.
Sacramento Golden State series has just been gold. It has been really fun to watch.
I mean, Jimmy Butler.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. Um, hope everyone's having a fantastic Friday morning. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Thursday night on YouTube. What's up, YouTube? How are you all doing tonight? Enjoying the draft? Enjoying some baseball? I'm not enjoying baseball. I wasn't joking. I couldn't pick a pitcher to save my life on Thursday night. So slate's not going good for me. Excited because it's daily fantasy and we get to bounce back here on Friday. 11 baseball games to talk about here on today's slate. And luckily, Detroit's not on the slate to hit whoever they're pitching against, or so I don't have to worry about my Kyle Gibson love today. So that's always a good thing. But we'll say that we want to pay attention to weather across a few different games today. So Kevin Roth is definitely going to be busy today. Washington does not look good. If you are playing that early game, Detroit doesn't look good for weather. So pay attention to what Kevin Roth has to say as far as weather today. So let's jump in and get started. We have Pittsburgh at Washington. No total in this game. Hill and Cool. If this game plays, the weather looks. This is probably the worst game on the slate as far as weather is concerned. So we'll have to kind of see what happens. But if it does play, we have 17-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from center field. It's going to be in the mid 50s. I mean, not the best hitting conditions, but not the best pitchers. Any interest here in Rich Hill?
Yeah, I mean, I know both offenses are really bad too, and whether if it plays looks good, but Rich Hill's 43 years old. I know he had it was a Coors start, I believe, or he just dominated. He was pretty good against a bad Cincinnati offense too. Washington just doesn't quite strike out enough. I can't see myself playing Rich Hill on a 11 game slate.
Yeah, I mean, Washington, like you said, they're going to put the ball in play. They can go very right-handed heavy. I think they only had one lefty, CJ Abrams against Luke AC on Thursday night. And I mean, so Rich Hill, like his splits this season have been dramatically bad against righties. 387 WOBA, 300 ISO, 200 average hit distance, 45% fly balls, 45% hard contact. So no interest for me in Rich Hill. I don't know if we're even going to have to worry about this game. The weather doesn't look great at all. Chad Kuhl on the other side, another guy that's sitting at a 5.7 xFIP, around 17.5% Ks, 10% walks. I mean, another guy that I don't think I want to play on a slate where, we have some pitching options. We have a guy like Jacob deGrom. He's good at baseball. He's good at throwing baseballs.
Indeed.
We have a couple other guys too, but I mean, we have some pitching options today, so I don't think I necessarily want to touch either one of these pitchers.
Yeah, I'm with you. No, I have less interest in Cool than I did in Rich Hill. Just he's not going to go deep into the game. He just has never been able to stick in a big league rotation. So, and I would not even call Washington a big league rotation at this point.
All right, let's talk bats. If the weather's good here, I mean the hitting is not bad. As bad as Washington has been this season, the bullpen's actually been pretty good. One thing to kind of note. So, they're not allowing a ton of home runs. They have one of the lower bullpen whips on the season. So is there any interest here in the Pittsburgh bats for you?
If the weather was better, I would have quite a bit of interest in Pittsburgh. Actually, like I said, Cool just hasn't had much success getting major league hitters out. He's had a big time hard contact problem. Brian Reynolds would be an outstanding option on this slate, even at 5K. Pittsburgh also getting a nice ballpark shift going into Washington away from PNC Park. If the weather were better, I would have a lot of interest in Pittsburgh because there's some cheap bats that I like as well, like Sawinski in particular. Bay has been pretty productive, even though he hits down in the order. He fills a second base position. He's 3,600. Like with really cold weather, and if there's any chance of a PPD whatsoever, I'm probably just skipping it. But if Roth gives it the full go, then I do have some interest in these Pittsburgh backs. Still probably a 3-man stack for me just because upside isn't great. Washington bullpen has been okay, like you said. But I do have some interest in picking on Cool if weather allows.
Marcano hitting leadoff 2,500 potentially. He's been solid at the plate to start the season, since getting called up. And I mean, I assume we're going to see him for a little bit longer with Cruz kind of being out. It sounds like for a little while at least. So, yeah, I mean, Cruz might miss the year, right? Like it was a broken leg or something, right? It's not like
ankle, I think. Yeah. So at least a couple of months for sure.
Reynolds, like you mentioned, I'm glad Reynolds got paid for what it's worth.
Yeah,
I think he is a very good hitter. And I mean, if Pittsburgh wants to do anything over the next 2 years, I feel like he's a guy you can kind of build around. Very good real life hitter. But yeah, I mean, Reynolds, if you want to take some shots on Swazinski, Joe, like they're in play. I just want to see what the weather looks like. I mean, the hitting conditions as of right now, looking at it the night before, look bad. So Washington bats, any interest here in Washington going up against Rich Hill?
I don't think I want to stack here. And again, this is weather dependent, but they're really, really cheap. So I think you can find a cheap home run here. Meneses would be my first look for that. I think Stone Garrett is in play. Alex Call has been leading off. He's only 2,600. So Meneses is the most expensive hitter in this lineup at 3,500. I don't even know if I want to play 3 of these guys, but if I need a cheap one-off, I think I can find a home run here against Rich Hill, assuming that the weather is like semi-decent. If it's freezing and wind's blowing in, I'm probably not messing with it.
Cruz hit fourth, I think, on Thursday night. So you get a catcher under 3K hitting towards the middle of the lineup. So I definitely don't mind that. But yeah, I mean, Meneses, Cruz, Garrett, Thomas. Thomas eventually going to start hitting a little bit more power and a good matchup against Hill. So I don't mind some pieces in this game as far as bats. I don't know if I like full stack it or even use them as like secondary stats. But so we'll see. All right, Seattle at Toronto, 8.5 total in this game. The Blue Jays a 120 favorite. Manoah and Castillo facing off against each other. Let's talk Luis Castillo first here, going into Toronto. Tough matchup. Any interest here in Castillo?
We're not getting a discount here. He's been phenomenal this season, but Toronto is not a team that I like to pick on. A lot of patience, a lot of power. And we have Jacob deGrom on the slate. I mean, it's strictly large field tournament pivot is the only reason you would even consider it. Even then, I'm not sure I'm interested. I probably am just I end up trying to go overweight on deGrom. If it were a better matchup, I would have a ton of interest, but I'm not really interested in picking on Blue Jays.
I want to see his ownership. I could see myself taking some shots on Castillo if he's going to be low owned. I mean, he's so good against righties, like 36% Ks. So it's like the ultimate. Do you take the Ks for the pitcher or the low strikeouts for the hitter kind of spot? And if Castillo is just going to be low owned because we do have Jacob deGrom on the slate, then I mean, we're going to have enough cheap bats to potentially play both of them if we wanted to. Or, I mean, Castillo does have that similar type of ceiling as deGrom where Castillo can put up 35 plus points. So, I want to see ownership on Castillo. I think he's interesting. I mean, we're going to have a few weather spots today. This game played, with the roof and indoors. You don't have to worry about the weather. So I think Castillo is potentially interesting. Manoah on the other side of this game, I mean, finally a pretty decent start last time out against the Yankees. I mean, he had struggled to start the season. I know he pitched good against Kansas City, but that doesn't count. They're Kansas City. He struggled against Detroit. I mean, that just kind of gives you an idea of Alek Manoah's season. Any interest here in Manoah?
So they are tempting us with the price on this one. Seattle, not generally an offense I like to pick on either, but 6,900 for Alek Manoah. I know it's been a rough start to the season for him, but that is really cheap. So I am interested, especially as an SP2. Um, I like he doesn't even need to be great at 6,900. I am a little concerned about him, like just long term being what he was last year. I know there's been rumblings about him not liking the pitch clock or struggling with his conditioning in the pitch clock, things like that. So I do think his struggles, like there's something underneath, and it's not just a simple mechanic tweak. But the last start against New York was encouraging. So maybe he's figured out a rhythm and a way to manage the pitch clock that will help him going forward. At this price tag, though, I'm in for sure, even in a tough matchup against Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, I like the price. I hate the stats. I mean,
Yeah,
he has struggled. I mean, he has a 5.65 Sierra. I mean, looking through his stats, his strikeouts are way down this season. And I mean, he's had some good strikeout matchups. So it's not like he hasn't had some good strikeout matchups. But I mean, he's sitting at like all of his advanced numbers just scream fade to me. I mean, like I'm struggling to have interest in a guy who's just struggling so much. 40, almost 43%, like hard hits, 17% Ks. His walk rate is at a career worst. Like, if you like ERA and like xERA, it's almost 7. So I mean, I'm just struggling looking at all the advanced stats, saying like, I mean, he's really not doing anything different, and he's just not getting outs. His fastball, same type of strikeout, but I mean, just kind of not missing bats with the sinker. And I think like a pitch that he used a lot is like a put away pitch, and having that like fourth strong pitch last year has really kind of hurt him here to start the year, because he doesn't throw his changeup a lot. He's really like a fastball, sinker, slider guy.
yeah.
So I mean, not really having that like pounding sinker to kind of get guys out has been an issue with him this year. And I mean, if you're looking at like baseball savant and stuff, he's not generating the swinging strikes out of the zone enough. So Seattle's a good offense. If he's struggling against this offense, they will punish him. The price is tempting. It really is. Their strikeouts here: Suarez, Rodriguez, Teoscar Hernandez, Klenek, Murphy. Like all these guys have high strikeouts. They hit with power too. So
Impatient.
Patient. Any interest here in the Seattle Bats?
Yeah, I do have some interest in the Seattle Bats. We just broke down Manoah's struggles. It has not been a good year for him. Generally, a pitcher I don't like to pick on because he generally has decent control. He can generate some ground balls. But I like there's a lot of talent in this Seattle offense. Julio's obviously great. Kelnick has been amazing so far this year. He's only 4,100 still. So price has not quite adjusted to what he's been doing. Suarez and Teoscar have big time power. France is going to get on base for sure. Like it's just a really good offense. It's part of why, just even though Manoah is that cheap, I'm not positive that I'm playing a bunch of him. So I like, and with him struggling recently or up until this point in the season, I think you can definitely make a Seattle stack here.
Toronto Bats, I don't think, like, even if you don't want to play Castillo, I just don't see myself stacking Toronto at these prices against Castillo.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Castillo is probably the second best pitcher on this slate. That's arguable. But Toronto is still very priced up. Their top 4 are all 5K or above. Varsho is cheap. If I was looking for a one-off, I think Varsho would be the guy I look to. I don't have any interest in stacking against Castillo though.
Also, you have to like realize that Seattle is a top 5 bullpen too. Yeah, it's very interesting. All right, Cleveland at my Sox taking on Boston. It's 9 total in this game. Cleveland Guardians a -142 favor. We got Beaver and my favorite pitcher, Nick Pivetta. Shane Bieber. Any interest here in Bieber against the Red Sox?
A small amount. He just like the strikeouts have disappeared the last couple of years. Like he's still a really solid real life pitcher. He's just not a strikeout pitcher. When I'm trying to match the upside of DeGrom, if I'm paying up, like it's possible to fit DeGrom and Bieber in a lineup. Don't get me wrong. But I think you're leaving a little bit on the table with bats, especially if Bieber doesn't go out there and strike out like 7 or 8. which he doesn't do very often anymore. And especially not against a really low strikeout team like Boston. I wasn't quite buying Boston's low strikeout rate to begin the year, but I mean, we're almost a month in right now, and they're still really low strikeout. So Bieber not having the same strikeout stuff he once did, being priced above 9K, I don't mind it. It's not something that I'm like I'm not trying to go over the field or something. If I happen to have a pitcher slot, I think he's fine. He's talented, but it's tough to see a ceiling spot here and a good ballpark for hitting too.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Man, it is hailing so hard outside my house right now that I can hear it over my headphones and you talking. It's a coming down in the young household right now. But yeah, I mean, Bieber's strikeouts are way down, his swinging strikes way down. A team that, like you mentioned, we're a month into the season now, and the Red Sox are still not striking out. They just have that approach where they're going to put the ball in play and see what kind of happens here. And they kind of built this team around that, with Duvall out of the lineup right now. I mean, that's kind of what they're doing. So I think Bieber's too expensive. He's yet to have a game over 20 fantasy points. He's only touched over 5 strikeouts one time, and that was against Oakland in Oakland, and he still only scored 19 fantasy points in that game. So yeah, I mean, I struggle here. And what did I say? It's baseball savant. I'm tired. I'm tired. They were making fun of me in YouTube chat. I know what it is. I'm tired.
You pronounced it correctly. I think you said savant the first time.
Yeah, dude, I'm so tired. It's savant. I know what it is. I've been using it longer than you guys have been playing fantasy sports. So, I'm super distracted because I'm like, I was like, if my car getting destroyed right now.
I've been there before. I lived in Dallas. Dallas gets a lot of bad hail too. And Oklahoma City as well. So I know that feeling when you can just hear your car getting pelted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm waiting for the kids to wake up. All right. Nick Pivetta on the other side of this game. One, I don't think Cleveland's the best offense in baseball this year. I think this team is a good team. I just don't think they're like a great team. Like they might end the season as like a bottom 10 home run and WRC plus team. I mean, they have the lowest amount of home runs against right-handed pitching this season. But I mean, there's still a really low strikeout rate team. And I think Pivetta, I mean, his ceiling and his upside is definitely going to be on getting strikeouts and stuff like that. I don't think I'm playing Nick Pivetta today.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one too. And Cleveland's another low strikeout team. The thing that interests me a little bit is the low power from Cleveland as well. Part of the reason you hate Pivetta is he's a fly ball pitcher in a home run
park. Hate's a strong word. I said he's my favorite pitcher.
Right. I've done enough podcasts with him on the slate before to know your feelings on Nick Pivetta.
I don't for what it's worth though. I think Nick Pivetta is not a bad real life pitcher. I just don't think he is a good fit for Fenway. And I mean, I will stick by that and I'll live by it. But that's all I'm saying. I mean, this guy, he's kind of built a career of being a slightly above average pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, there is some strikeout stuff here. Unfortunately, it's a low strikeout opponent, but because of the lack of power, I think that one of his biggest problems in giving up hard contact in the air, especially in this park, is mitigated to a degree. I don't hate a large field tournament shot on him. Again, not a guy I'm going to be rostering a ton, but I think trying to find value in your SP2 is a little difficult on this slate. So maybe a tournament dart or two.
My wife texted me. She said, "This storm sounds crazy." I was like, "Honey, it's just orange. The red hasn't hit us yet." All right, let's talk some bats here. I mean, Pivetta is a guy that gives up home runs. So, if you want to take Jose Ramirez, I'm not going to talk you off of that. I think if you wanted to take guys like Naylor and try to chase a home run here, you could do that as well. He's pretty cheap. So if you're chasing a cheap first base home run, I think him or Bell makes some sense, but I don't think I want to stack Cleveland. Maybe a secondary stack, but I don't know about a full stack.
Yeah, the pricing isn't great. Paying $4,600 for Kwan is not ideal. they do add a speed element to it. So like the stack has a little more upside than their lack of home run power, like would suggest. But like we're paying for it too. Like these guys aren't 3K; they're all like 4K to 4,600. Jose Ramirez is one of my favorite one-offs on the slate. I think he's a phenomenal play. I'm struggling to get to those low power speed guys in the middle in the 4K range. I'm with you. I'd go down for the power of Naylor. I don't know what's happened to Josh Bell's power. Ever since he got traded to San Diego, it kind of disappeared, and it hasn't shown back up yet this year either. So he's cheap. There's probably some power still in there, but he's been down for sure. Yeah, I mean, my favorite play here is a Ramirez one-off, and I struggle to even get to 3 Cleveland bats.
Yeah, I mean, both third basemen in this game are fantastic. You know, going to the other side, the Boston side of this game, I mean, Devers just hasn't stopped hitting. I mean, he has 9 home runs now on the season. He's hitting and he's producing at a high clip. Yoshida is a guy that, I mean, everyone kind of questioned him coming over to the bigs, but he has been a guy that has just found it recently. Like if you look at his like last 5, 6, 7 games, he has been fantastic. So slow start, he looks great. I mean, out of nowhere, Jarren Duran has been really good for the Red Sox. I mean, they kind of need him to be good. So I could see myself ending up with like a 3-man Red Sox stack. I don't know if like it's a full stack for me because Cassis has kind of been struggling and like I would want him in my stack. But I mean, if I was stacking, I would probably put him in my stack. But Devers, Yoshida, and Duran, I think, are all fantastic options here.
Yeah, Devers certainly fantastic. Got to pay for it, but totally fine with what the upside he brings, even against a really good pitcher. Love the Yoshida call. Like dude that started off has always been making contact and not striking out at all, but now we're starting to see the power come around, which is a really nice step in the right direction. Like not a signing that was lauded by around the industry, but he looked awesome in the WBC, and then he looked like he was going to be an extreme contact guy. But now we're starting to see some power too. So I don't mind Yoshida as a one-off. I'm with you. I'm probably not stacking against Bieber just because he has pretty good control. He doesn't get blown up very often, but I don't mind picking out a power one-off or two.
Yeah, I mean, Bieber's lack of strikeouts and the amount of power that the Sox kind of have is a very interesting combo if he's just not having a good day here. So, all right, up next, we got Tampa Bay at Chicago White Sox, 8.5 total in this game. The Rays opened as a 136 favorite. They're a 132 favorite here. I mean, just absolutely smashing the baseball. Zach Eflin going up against Lucas Giolito. Any interest here in Eflin?
I do have a little interest here in Eflin. Another guy that reminds me a lot of Pivetta, probably a little bit better than Pivetta, but just two Philly prospects who had a lot of promise. Their strikeout stuff here, and they just never quite put it all together. Eflin is very much in that mold. I think this is a much easier matchup here against the White Sox, dealing with a lot of injuries and underperforming yet again. I don't love the price tag at 9K. I don't love that it's a bad ballpark shift going from Tampa to Chicago, but I do think that I think you can take some shots here. We'll have to see exactly how much salary we have to work with. Obviously, we want to get to DeGrom. Paying 11.5 and 9K for your two pitchers is pretty steep, but I do have some interest here. I think he can have a good outing.
Okay, so my concern, like he had that little bit of a back injury, missed I think almost 2 weeks. I think it was right on the edge of like 2 weeks. He came back through 67 pitches. They've been very careful with like his pitch count and like with the increase in price. I mean, when he was 7,500, if he was going to go out and throw 85 pitches, I mean, okay,
chalk if he was 7,500, yeah,
yeah. So, I mean, just the pitch count concerns me. The matchup doesn't. The White Sox have not been good. Eflin's been really good in the 3 starts. Tampa was a good landing spot for Zach Eflin, in my opinion. So,
agree.
I'm just worried about the pitch count. I mean, what are we thinking? We thinking that like he sees a 15 pitch increase and we're in the 80, 82 range. Is that enough at 9K? I mean, 6 strikeouts, 5 or 6 innings. I mean, add a win and maybe 25, 20, like 30 max. I think 30 is like absolute ceiling crushes the White Sox in this game.
Yeah, you make some good points there. I didn't realize he was as low as 67 his first time back. I was thinking he was more around 80 and we could probably get 90, 95 out of him here. But 67 to 90 seems like a pretty healthy jump. He's probably going to be more in that 80 to 85 range. You make good points. I think you talked me off it a little bit.
Well, I mean, his first couple starts before the back kind of flared up, he went 74 to 82, so he had an 8 pitch increase. So I think even 15 might be a little too high, but I mean that's kind of like the industry standard is like a 15 pitch bump until you're in like the 90 range. So I just worry. Like I don't hate the matchup. I'm not playing the White Sox bats. I can tell you that. I like the matchup for Eflin. I really hope that I hope we get some type of like, hey, he's going to throw 85 pitches. And then like you can make the decision on, do you think he has enough ceiling at 85 pitches at 9K to beat the White Sox and have a really good game? I mean, Tampa, with the offense that they have going right now, they're a tough team and you have to almost lock in a win right now for their pitchers or feel good about wins for their pitchers. So I worry about the pitch count. I like the matchup. I like the talent. I really like the landing spot. I don't know if this is going to be the time I play him. And I'm glad he's not 7,500 to be honest, because I think you have to actually like think about it and make a decision at 9K. 7,500, 80 pitches, I'm in. Like I wouldn't even be thinking twice about it. Lucas Giolito, other side of this game. I mean, after watching what the Rays did to Cease on Thursday and watching what the Rays have just done all year and seeing like some negative regression potentially for Giolito and his numbers, like, I mean, he's had one really stellar game. He's going to go out and give you 100 pitches. I don't know if I could play anybody against Tampa right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't know where this has come from, but it's not stopping anytime soon. And I don't feel any reason to try to pick on them while it does. I think Giolito, I've been saying this, like he was a disaster to try to figure out last year too. There's so much talent in Giolito that it's just frustrating that he has not been able to put it together. I mean, he had a couple really good years a few seasons back, but the last year he struggled. He struggled again this year. He just faced Tampa as well. I thought Cardi said something really interesting on Crunch Time on Thursday night that he does have data that facing a team back to back like this does impact. And he compared it to going through the order like the third time, which makes complete sense to me. If a team has just seen you, they know exactly like your pitch mix and how you like to work the count and that type of thing. So the fact that Tampa Bay is on an absolute tear and he just faced them last week and he wasn't terrible against him. He had 5 strikeouts. He did give up 4 runs. But facing them in back-to-back starts is something I have no interest in.
Yeah, I mean, I typically don't like playing pitchers back to back, and I should have listened to my own self when it came to Kyle Gibson facing Detroit back to back. But it's like, man, Detroit's so bad, it's not going to matter. Anyway, yeah, I'm not playing Giolito. I think Tampa is a team now. Like the only bad thing about Tampa is like their pricing is just so expensive. It's such a tough stack to get with like a DeGrom and feel good about the rest of your team. I think Tampa's at the point though where like they might be in consideration to stack every single day until they kind of slow down. They're hitting the ball so well right now. The only reason I think that their ownership stays down is because of price. And just the pricing is going to keep the ownership down on Tampa because we do have some stud pitchers to pay up for.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like getting up to the 5K range for a Rosarena and Franco, I think Franco is okay. Like if you wanted to pay for a couple value bats and then fit in Franco with that, I'm totally fine with that. Lau at 4,800, I really like that. Even though Giolito has been reverse splits in his career, I don't mind those two guys. It's really tough to full stack them, and like you just don't know who's going to do it on a given night for Tampa. Like especially when they're away from that ballpark, though in Tampa, I think that like I agree with you. I think they have as much upside as anyone. It's just hard to pick out who the superstars are in this lineup. I mean, obviously we know Lau has power and Franco's really good. I don't know. I just don't see myself getting here. Like, I know what they've been doing. Giolito has been struggling. They're facing him for the second time in 2 starts. Everything's lined up for them to absolutely smash here, and I still can't say with certainty that I'm gonna stack them on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna at this point. I'm not gonna tell you not to stack them.
Right.
So the pricing I think the pricing is going to keep me off of them overall. But again, I typically only play 3 teams, and I'm super busy tomorrow, so I probably only play like a single entry team, and I don't know if they make the cut on a single entry team for me. Also, paying attention to the NFL draft, like the one like guy that I really want to see end up in like a certain place is Jordan Addison. With Gabe Davis kind of, being a free agent, and I don't expect him to go back to Buffalo. I think Jordan Addison could be huge for DFS. So I'm hoping he goes to Buffalo, and I know their picks coming up. So
I saw the Chargers just took Quentin Johnston, which is a pretty interesting fit.
Yeah, I mean, they could use some help.
Yep.
White Sox bats against Eflin. I mean, the White Sox have just underperformed all year against right-handed pitching. They're bottom 5 in WRC plus. They have a little bit of power, and we know that. So I mean, if you want to chase some home runs, I don't hate it, but I don't think this is a team you want to necessarily stack until they get healthy.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Underperformed all this year, underperformed all last year. Don't know what happened to this team. They looked like they were on the verge of being World Series contenders before last year. It hasn't gone well for them since then. I know Eloy Jimenez has struggled, but there's big time power in there. He's 3,500. It's just going to be power one-offs for me. I don't feel the need to stack against Eflin. I think he's a talented pitcher, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gave up a home run or two. So Eloy Jimenez, Jake Berger, Andrew Vaughn, Gavin Sheets, if he's in there, just give me a cheap power, a cheap guy that can hit a home run is really all I'd be looking for here.
Todd in chat asked what I think about Richardson going to Indy. I'm a Gator. I'm a huge Richardson fan. Like he's very, very, very talented. Is he a good quarterback? We will see. He has an immense amount of talent. So I think as an Indy fan, if you're like wanting a high ceiling like prospect, I think that you have to kind of be somewhat excited about Richardson, in my opinion. So to be fair, I think Richardson has a higher ceiling than like CJ Stroud. And I could be wrong, but I think Richardson has a higher ceiling. So we'll see. Atlanta at New York facing the Mets. We got Fried against Peterson, the battle of the lefties. 8 total in this game. The Braves are 140 favorites. Any interest here in Max Fried?
They're tempting us with price again. The Mets are not an offense I generally like to pick on. Max Fried is not a DFS pitcher that I like to use a lot because he's not a huge strikeout guy. He's an awesome real-life pitcher. He's a real-life ace, but he just doesn't have the strikeout. Generally, he's at like 9K and doesn't have the strikeout upside. He still doesn't have strikeout upside in this matchup against the Mets. They don't strike out very much. But he's 7,700, and we need an SP2 that we can save a little money with if we're paying up for DeGrom, at least to build optimally, in my opinion, like to get a couple of good bats in there too. I think I have interest in Fried. I hate the matchup, but he's a really good pitcher. It's going to be more like, and he's not a guy that has a huge pitch count. He did throw 107 his last time out, but I wouldn't expect that again. He's going to be in that 95 range more than likely. And I think if you get 5Ks, you're doing really well. But at 7,700, 6 innings and 5Ks clean might be enough on this slate. So I do have some interest. I don't think the upside is huge. And he definitely needs a clean sheet for him to get there. But I'm interested just because of the talent of the pitcher.
He's too cheap. At the end of the day, he's just like, he's a legit potential ace when he is healthy and he's pitching well. And he gets a ballpark upgrade going into Citi Field. The Mets have a 6% higher strikeout rate against left-handed pitching than they do against right-handed pitching. They also hit more home runs. I mean, you have to get around Pete Alonso and Lindor. These guys are just crushing left-handed pitching this season. And Alonso, massive fly ball guy, so benefits from, Fried's ground balls. So, like, if you want a one-off, that might be where you end up. But Freed's just too cheap. Like ballpark upgrade, matchup should be good. Like you mentioned, 107 pitches, like a huge bump from coming back. I mean, we talked about him when he was coming back against San Diego and how they didn't rehab start him at all. And he got a huge increase. Like, hey, he's good to go, 29 or 28 pitches, increase. Like, that's not heard of usually. So,
Right,
Max
we just
Fried's
talked about
too
15
cheap.
being the normal.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think at the end of the day, he's too cheap for his upside and like potentially like even his floor in this matchup. So, I think he's going to be somewhat popular, like as an SP2 today. There's some tournament plays for sure, but I think that like in this price range, he makes a ton of sense if you're pairing with like DeGrom or Castillo type of play. So yeah, I have a lot of interest if the weather is good. That might be the one downfall here. There's some potential weather, but I think it's early and it like kind of moves out. I'm not Kevin Roth. I'm not a weather person. I'm watching the weather in my house right now, for sure. Um, Peterson on the other side of this game. I know Atlanta's kind of struggled a little bit, with left-handed pitching this season, but I mean, the stats all like everything says that they should crush left-handed pitching. I guess they haven't struggled too much. They've got it going a little bit. They're second best WRC plus against left-handed pitching this year.
Yeah, I mean Riley's always crushed lefties. It's just Acuna for whatever has weird splits. LB's is better against lefties, but yeah, it's like Atlanta is tough to pick on anytime. Like there's a lot of strikeouts there, so I'm always tempted to do it. With Fried only being 500 more, I certainly prefer that. I'm guessing ownership is going to follow with that. So I think we potentially get Peterson really low owned here. He does have strikeout upside. I know that he's struggled and against some team like Milwaukee. I look at as a similar matchup to Atlanta. They're like a poor man's Atlanta, where they strike out a bunch, but they have a bunch of power too. And he gave up 5 runs. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how I'm breaking down exposure. Peterson is in the mix for me just because he can generate strikeouts. Atlanta will strike out a little bit, but boy, I'm definitely going to have an Atlanta stack too. I can tell you that.
Baltimore drafted Zay Flowers. So that's interesting. All right. Atlanta bats. Yeah, I mean, kind of just talking about what you were talking about here. Like Peterson, not typically a guy I pick on. I mean, he has decent strikeouts. He's been very good at like limiting power to righties. I mean, you look at the numbers for Riley, Murphy, Albies, and you're like, I mean, these guys just crush left-handed pitching. So Albies and Murphy are both fly ball guys. So facing a ground ball guy, they could really benefit from that. I don't know if I stack Atlanta because of the ballpark, but I'm definitely interested in Riley, Albies, and Murphy in the heart of this lineup.
Yeah, those are the same 3 I had my eye on. Like it's expensive to try to get Acuna in there. Olsen is lefty. Like you're not getting Acuna, Olsen, and Riley, and then paying up for DeGrom as well. So that's why it's more of a 3-man stack for me. Grissom is cheap and plays shortstop, so I'm interested in him at 3,400 as well. I prefer their punt outfielders that hit from the left side, like Hilliard, over guys like Pilar and Ozuna. That's why it's not a 5-man stack for me also. But I do like either using Riley as a one-off, Albies as a one-off because he fills second, or doing a little 3-man with those two and Murphy or Grissom.
Does Ozuna doesn't end the season in a Braves uniform, right?
I think he is he's soon for the waiver wire, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
a bunch of money to do it, but
Harris is rehabbing, right? Like he just started rehab. I remember reading an alert either yesterday or the day before. So like Michael Harris comes back say Monday. Bye, Ozuna. You're gone.
Yeah.
Listen,
atrocious.
Yeah, I want to see him do better. Maybe like change of scenery and he does better or something. Maybe if he does get cut, maybe I think he'll get picked up for sure. After he clears waivers. All right, Mets bats against Fried. Anything standing out to you here?
No, I mean, you can always play Pete Alonso against a lefty, but Fried is a control ground ball artist that is very hard to blow up. Like he gets ground balls when he gets in trouble, an occasional strikeout. Not a guy I like to pick on at all. Even home runs, he gets so many ground balls. Like Alonso's probably the only one off I'm taking here, and he's really expensive as well. So, and like tough ballpark in New York also. Definitely not a stack. Pete Alonso as a one-off is probably my only interest.
All right, Yankees and Rangers. We got DeGrom against Schmidt, 7.5 total. This line opened at 164. Judge left the game, and it's minus 200 for the Rangers now. The line movement definitely suggests that like Judge might not be in the lineup, and like he was a guy that was kind of questionable to be in the lineup yesterday.
Yeah, you had that awkward slide, right?
He had that awkward slide on Wednesday night we talked about on the podcast last night, and then he was in the lineup, and I was a little shocked by it. And I was like, oh, he must be okay. So I put him in my Yankee stack. That didn't work out. Yankee stack actually did really well. It doesn't matter when your pitchers combined for like 12 points. Very, very pitcher tilted today. I was telling Keith before the show, I was like, man, if I nailed my pitchers today on any kind of combination, my bats crushed. All right, let's talk Clark Schmidt, or shall we? Coming off a good start against Toronto. Any interest here in Schmidt?
I think it depends on if the roof is open. If Texas opens the roof again,
There is
probably
bad
out.
weather. I highly doubt they open the roof.
All right, then I do have some interest. The park definitely plays different when the roof is closed. It plays much more as a pitcher's park. Obviously, the warm weather that usually accompanies the open roof is a huge part of that.
Also, not to interrupt you, but like, didn't DeGrom like throw kind of a temper tantrum about like the roof open on opening day? Will he have the roof open the rest of the year?
I missed that, but if he doesn't want it open, I would assume that it's not going to be open.
Yeah, there was a thing that like came out that like he was kind of pissed that the roof was open for his start.
I mean, that makes sense, right? Like use it to your advantage. If your starting pitcher that you just paid $1 billion to doesn't want the roof open, I think you'd listen to him. So that gives me slight interest in Schmidt. He's still not my favorite play. Like Fried at 7,700, it's not that much more to get up there. But Schmidt does have some strikeout upside, so I don't hate large field tournament shots on him. He was actually a guy I was excited about coming into the year. They had talked about him developing a cutter in spring training, and then he struggled to start the year, so I'd kind of gotten off of him. And then he goes out and strikes out 8 Blue Jays, and it's like, okay, that's the guy that I was kind of excited about seeing what he could do when they were talking him up in spring training. So 6,200. Texas has been a really good offense. I think they're overperforming a little bit, especially without Seager. But I do believe in the talent of Schmidt, so I might throw some darts at him.
Yeah, there was a Dallas article. I'm trying to find it but they closed the roof like halfway through the game or something. Anyway, I highly doubt the roof is going to be open for this game for what it's worth. I mean, when your ace pitcher throws a fit, but I mean, Schmidt's cheap. Coming off of a good start, 26% Ks. I mean, he's really struggled with like power lefties. I think they have enough lefties in this lineup to potentially hurt him. I think he's potentially a tournament option. Potentially, like I said, assuming the roof is going to be closed, I think he's potentially 6,200 is just cheap. I mean, there's plenty of bats to pay up for on the slate. So I think potentially an option. Jacob deGrom on the other side. I mean, if Judge doesn't play, like if we're adding like Judge now to the list of like Stanton and Donaldson, like good luck.
Yeah, I mean, like 11.5 is not enough. I said until he's over 12K, like I might lock him in again. If Judge is out of this lineup, I legitimately might play him in every single lineup that I build. I generally build between 20 or 30 and play large field contests with them. I might just hit the lock button on DeGrom because with no Judge in the New York lineup, it looks real bad. They strike out plenty as it is already, and just taking out a massive threat like that, I think I would lock button DeGrom if Judge isn't in there.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely that type of pitcher, right? Like he's just a guy that his strikeouts are just you can count them. Like you can count on his strikeouts to be 8 plus most starts. I mean, he's sitting at a 42.2% K rate. Um, dude, I feel great about like I got some Cy Young like futures on DeGrom, and like if he can continue to stay this healthy, like the number was way too good to pass on. So knocking on wood a little bit, but I mean, if he stays healthy, he's the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, I'll argue that with anybody that wants to argue it. But if he's healthy, he's the best pitcher in baseball. So I have no interest in the Yankees bats. I don't want to touch the Yankees here.
Agreed.
Texas is interesting. If Schmidt does gain some ownership throughout the day, I could see playing like a low. Heim is always a guy that I like to play at catcher. Not like a full on stack, but like if you're playing those two guys, you can get like a Simeon or a Garcia. What are your thoughts on the Texas bats?
Yeah, very very similar. I certainly think you could pick out some lefties here. Lowe is the one that definitely stands out. Big power, has been off to a great start this year, 4,600. Heim as a catcher, definitely don't mind that. Like it gets pretty brutal beyond that. That's part of why I have interest in Schmidt, because like obviously Simeon and Garcia are great. I don't think I want to pay for them on this slate just because Schmidt does handle righties pretty well and they're more expensive. But after those four, the lineup gets pretty ugly pretty fast, especially if Young is going to be out again, their rookie third baseman. He's missed the last two games, or he was pulled early 2 days ago and then sat on Thursday night. So not sure if he's going to be back in the lineup. If he's out again, this lineup is falls off in a hurry. Like it's really just Lowe and Heim. If you want to add like a Brad Miller into that, just to make it a 3-man, fine. But it's really Lowe and Heim are the only two I'm super interested in.
Oh man, Jordan Addison, the Vikings.
Wow.
I don't hate that fit for him, but I just
what a run on wide receivers. The last 4 picks have been wide receivers.
I know. Crazy. Crazy. Man, oh man, I'm just like Anyway, I really wanted to see him in Buffalo. I thought it was going to be a great fit for him for fantasy purposes. Does Buffalo go wide receiver still now? I mean, the run on wide receiver I think was kind of shocking. All right,
Yeah,
we got
Jalen Hyatt's the only other one I think in first round consideration, and I think that I don't know how that fit works, but I mean, certainly
they need something, right? Like they're going to have to eventually try to get a wide receiver in this draft that's somewhat, or go out and try to get somebody in free agency. But I don't remember wide receivers being good. So, all right, moving on. We got LA at Milwaukee. Sorry, this is a longer podcast. NFL draft is always super interesting. Sorry, I get super distracted too when it comes to this kind of stuff. But Angels and
they owe us double time for this one.
Angels and Brewers, 9 total in this game. Brew Crew, for some odd reason, the Brewers are a minus 142 favorite. If you live in a state that has legalized betting, the Angels are money line is plus 120. They're one of the best teams in baseball against left-handed pitching. The Brewers are one of the worst teams in baseball against left-handed pitching. They have the lowest WRC plus and the highest strikeout rate against left-handed pitching this season. So if you live in a state, legalized betting, I don't mind throwing a little bit of money on that one. So like that one. The numbers, I see Keith over there like, hey, I need to get on this. All right. Tyler Anderson is not good. And I get that's probably why the line is the way that it is. Tyler Anderson's not great. But again, this team's been really bad against left-handed pitching this season. Any interest here in Anderson?
The upside is tough to find. He's not a strikeout guy. He hasn't been pitching deep into games. He only threw 64 pitches his last time out. And it's not like he was coming off a layoff either. That was on normal rest.
No, he got hit really, really hard.
You're right,
in the 6th inning. Like he was pitching really well. He was kind of cruising, and then the 6th inning, he got rocked in the 6th inning.
You're right. I forgot all about that, but that is exactly what happened. Before that, he was at 81 and 88, so still not a guy that's going super deep. The price tag is attractive. We don't need a ton out of him at 6,500. I just feel like there's more upside from a guy like Clark Schmidt. Obviously, a tougher matchup against the Yankees. Well, I mean, it depends on the roof for Schmidt for me. But if Schmidt's available, the roof is closed, and I can play Schmidt. I probably don't need Anderson. I don't hate him. I don't mind the idea just because I don't think Milwaukee's a good offense either. It's just hard to find the upside here. So only to be able to spend up on DeGrom in an elite stack would I consider it.
He's interesting to me. Like if you're running like 150 teams today, or even like a 20 entry max, he's interesting. Like this team's just been so bad against left-handed pitching this season that I mean, I think he has to be like at least like a thought today. He's not a great pitcher. He's probably slightly below average pitcher. So I mean that there's that. Wade Miley on the other side of this game. I mean, Wade Miley's a solid pitcher, but the Angels are really good against left-handed pitching. I'm just going to keep beating this drum. This team's really good. They made some really good pickups this offseason with Hunter Renfroe like being the main guy. Drury, very underrated hitter against left-handed pitching. Really good pickup for them. What are your thoughts here on Wade Miley?
So he's the same play as Tyler Anderson to me. He's just $2,000 more. And it's a more difficult matchup, but they're very similar pitchers. I noticed Miley was having some success. So I went and I looked up some of the peripherals and underlying stats. He has a 239 BABIP. So dude is getting really, really lucky. Like his ERA is under 2, but his Sierra is 442. He's just getting lucky. There's no chance I'm paying 8,700 for Wade Miley.
Yeah, who'd they faced like JP Sears, right, on Thursday, and they scored like 4 or 5 runs in like the second or third inning against him, and like they just kind of keep doing it, man. Like if you just look at the lineup, it's so like stacked. I mean, there's weak points, don't get me wrong, but like even Ohtani can hit left-handed pitching too, and they gave him the day off. So yeah, I mean, Wade Miley, like you mentioned, I was going to bring up the BABIP. He is like anytime you have a guy that like generates a lot of ground balls, usually the BABIP could potentially be like lower, but he's just not generating the ground balls this year. And like everything points to saying like Wade Miley is like a bad start, like a blow up start is coming. And I couldn't think of a better spot than the Angels to have that like blow up spot. So don't like Wade Miley. I really like the Angels. Again, I know you're all very shocked that I like the Angels against left-handed pitching, but yeah, I mean Trout, Rendon, Renfroe, Drury, Renifo, Wallich, if he catches, is still pretty cheap at 3,100. Like Angels stack very, very much in play for me today.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. Drury, you mentioned, has just been scorching hot. I think he's got 4 home runs in that series against Oakland. And I don't know. I know he had a home run on Thursday. I don't know what else he did. But he had multiple hits in addition to all those home runs in each of those games against Oakland too. Yeah, dude's been on fire, and he's still only 3,800, and he fills a second base position. He will be one of my highest owned hitters for sure. And then everything else you said, I don't disagree one bit. They're one of my favorite stacks on the slate.
Rendon got it going in that Oakland series too. They faced a couple lefties in that series, which I mean, like again, that's really good for them. Like, but he has multiple hits in 3 of his last 4 games too. So Rendon's a good hitter.
Price go down.
I know.
Renfro's
he's a good hitter.
He's been over 5K as he should be, and like you could actually get Renfroe pretty low owned because people wanted to pay for Ohtani and Trout. So like this week, I've been playing a ton of Renfroe.
All right. Milwaukee. Gosh, I know they've been bad, but I mean, Anderson's not great. So I think if you want to take shots on like Contreras, Adames, Anderson, I'm not going to talk you off of it. Luke Voit, I mean, even dating back to last year, has really just kind of struggled. Like he has the platoon, but he's really struggled with lefties. Just the power hasn't been there. Like Brasu should hit leadoff at 2,300. I don't know if I want to use a third base spot on him. We hit a home run the other night. I think outlier. Thoughts on Milwaukee bats here?
Yeah, Brian Anderson, William Contreras are both underpriced. And another thing, like Milwaukee is turning into a platoon team. Like they'll do a lot of pinch hitting here recently, so keep an eye on that. But I feel good. Like they're not going to take out the catcher, so Contreras is safe. Brian Anderson has been one of their best hitters all season long, so I think he's certainly safe as well. I love those two guys. And then paying up for Adames, he's completely safe from pinch hit as well. So I love that 3-man there. And then everybody else is pretty cheap, but just know you might only get 2 at bats out of them. Like if Luke Voit starts and Rowdy Tellez is on the bench, that he probably turns into Rowdy Tellez once a righty reliever comes in. In the outfield, Brosseau is another guy they pinch hit for. I think Weimer is safe because he's basically their only center fielder. I guess Perkins can play it now too, but like I think they both are in the starting lineup. But he generally hits 9th. I don't hate that as a punt outfielder if you want to do that. But really, for me, it's the 3-man, Contreras, Adames, and Anderson.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about those guys getting pinch hit for unless it's
Right.
like something like they get injured or something along those lines. So,
Yep.
All right. We got Philadelphia at Houston, 7.5 total in this game. The Astros a 158 favorite. Nola and Valdez facing off against each other here. Aaron Nola has not looked like Aaron Nola, and I think he's had some spots where he should have pitched well, and he hasn't. I mean, I am at the point now where I am definitely getting concerned about Nola.
I am as well. And we're not getting a discount here. If this were like an Alek Manoah situation where he'd been struggling, but he's $2,000 under where he generally is priced, you could talk me into it because I don't think Houston is as strong as they have been, at least not until they get healthy. Just Nola has it's not like he's getting hit hard. He's not striking anybody out or compared to what he usually does anyway. There's no way I can pay 9,600 for a guy that I just don't think is quite right.
His velocity is down a lot. A lot. I mean, last year on average, he was at 92.4, touched 93 in a lot of games last year from what I'm looking at. He is averaging like 90 to 91. Like his velocity is just down a lot. I mean, 1 to 2 mile an hour velocity difference is a lot. I mean, that's kind of looking into like his advanced numbers here and stuff. I mean, xWOBA way up. All this stuff is up. Sweet spot stat is such an interesting stat in general. Like Savant's like the one site that I think like uses that stat a lot, but 42.5%. Like he's a 33 to 34% guy. So I mean, kind of looking through the stats here, just not getting the right type of movement on his pitches. Like, is he being affected by something? I don't know, man. I don't know. Like everything I'm looking at here, though, I want nothing to do with him, even if Houston's lineup is banged up. Like Alvarez is banged up right now, dealing with that like neck, but they had an extra day, so like he might be back in the lineup. I don't think this is a spot I test Aaron Nola. I struggle with Nola in this spot. Like the movement being down is a lot. Like when you're having vertical movement issues, that's usually a lot. Like a lot of issues there. So yeah. Valdez on the other side, any interest in Valdez at 10K here?
So similar to the conversation that we had about Fried, really great real life pitcher. He's fully priced though. Fried is 7,700. Framber Valdez is 10K. Like Valdez is a little better than Fried, I would say, as a real life guy. Like they try to do the same things. Framber just does them better. Little higher strikeout rate, much higher ground ball rate, but both control ground ball guys. Like I'm gonna play DeGrom every time over him, and I'm gonna play Luis Castillo even against the Blue Jays over him. I have a really hard time getting to him. I think he's an amazing pitcher. I don't think I can pay $10K for him on this slate.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I can either. I think like he goes out and has a quality start in this spot. Like I think he goes out and he has a quality start. I don't know if he has the same type of ceiling as some of these other guys. He pitched really well last time out against Atlanta. Had 9 strikeouts. Had a pretty good game. So the one thing is like Philadelphia outside of like Turner and Castellanos, I guess like Real Muto's there too. But I mean, once you get past those 3 guys, you don't really worry about Schwarber or Marsh or these guys against left-handed pitching. Stout against left-handed pitching. So like, I think the lineup could potentially be really good for him, depending on who's in the lineup. So maybe you revisit it when the lineups start coming out, and if you like it, you can roll with it. But like, I'm not going out of my way to play Philly bats, but I don't think I'm going out of my way to play Valdez either, unless the lineup is really good. Any interest in the Philly bats?
No, not really. I definitely don't want to stack against Valdez for like ground ball control guys. I try to avoid stacking against pitchers like that. Real Muto would be the one-off I would use, but he's expensive. I don't necessarily want to pay $4,900 for a catcher on a Jacob deGrom slate. Bohm is $4,400. I don't mind that as a one-off, but no stacks for me.
Dalton Kincaid, Buffalo Bills. That's solid. The tight end out of Utah.
Yep. Good pass catcher.
Do they need him though? With Knox? Is Knox a free agent?
They can run him out of the slot, I think, and still use Knox inline. I don't know exactly the mechanics of that, but I think that they can both be on the field together. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Just
I thought
another weapon. They needed a weapon for sure, like you were saying.
Yeah.
I think that's a good pick.
They needed a pass catching weapon for sure. Do we have interest in Houston? Like, I know we talked about like all the things for Nola, and I mean he hasn't been great, but he's still not like getting blown up. He's giving 2 or 3 runs. Like, do you have interest in Nola or not Nola? Do you have interest in the Houston bats against Nola?
Not really. I mean, Alvarez, if he's in there, sure. Tucker, sure. But I don't want to stack both of them together. Like, it gets expensive in a hurry. And then, like, the bottom of the lineup, just there's not a ton of talent down here. I don't see a stack anyway. Like, I know Nola's struggling and he's not right, but like you said, he's not going to give up 6 or 7 runs, I don't think. Their 2 best bats are expensive. Alvarez is banged up. Not a stack for me. I'm not even seeing a one-off that I really love.
If you had to guess, how many extra base hits do you think Jose Abreu has so far this season?
It's bad. I know that. I'll go 4.
Yep.
Exactly.
4 exactly.
Wow.
Yep. Not having a rough year, man. Rough go. 104 at bats, 4 extra base hits.
Wow. I went super low.
He has 21 singles. He's yet to hit a home run. Did they mess up by letting Gurriel go? Is Gurriel a better hitter than Abreu?
Well, I mean, they gave Abreu 3 years and $60 million or something, and Gurriel I think was a minor league free agent signing. So yeah, like they paid 60 times more for Abreu than Gurriel, and right now they're the same hitter.
I mean, we know Abreu is eventually going to get it going, but is he? Like we keep saying for Nelson Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a ton of interest here. Jolks is some guy that I typically like against like left-handed pitching. Tucker and Alvarez would be the 2 guys, and I mean, they're so expensive, they're going to be really hard to get to. So, plus we have this next game, and we have some bats. We got Arizona at Colorado taking on the Rockies. It's an 11.5 total. We haven't had Coors in like a week, and it's been nice, but it's back. The money line here is -126 to the Diamondbacks. Let's talk Merrill Kelly first. Any interest in him going into Coors?
I don't think I can do it in Coors.
Hey, I mean, I watched some of his start against San Diego, and like he was really good, like the first time through, and it just seems to be that like kind of thing. I I think he gave up a home run to like Tatis in the first, but besides that, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, I mean, no, nope, and no Freeland for me. I love Arizona today. No Freeland for me.
Agree. No interest.
All right, Arizona bats. So Richie in chat says first game at Coors are toss-ups. Well, both of these teams play at elevation, so it shouldn't matter.
Everyone always says that. I want to see the report, the data that backs that up. Like, I want to see the study.
It's because we all want to think it, right? Like we all want
right.
to like have some type of edge on Coors. But yeah, I mean I love Arizona in this spot.
It does make sense, but you make a good point that Arizona also plays at elevation, so not as big of a deal here.
They also had a day off, both on Thursday. So they had a day to get into more elevation in Coors and get used to the air. Takes a BP. I'm joking kind of, but I'm kind of not. So all right, Arizona bats, everything. I mean, Freeland, definitely a guy that's hittable. He's not going to blow the ball by anybody. Colorado, bottom 10 bullpen. Arizona, bottom 10 bullpen. Like, yeah, man, it's Arizona bats are in just a phenomenal spot here. And Walker is 3,800. He's going to be your like mainstay cash game, main lineup first baseman. Marino is 3,300 at catcher. Like he's going to be someone that's going to be a staple in a lot of people's lineups today. But yeah, I mean, who's the other guy that like they called up the other day? Rivera. He's super cheap. I think he was 25 or 2,600. So yeah, I mean, just we got some cheap bats here for Arizona.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian Walker is going to be the highest owned bat on the slate, most likely. Love Marino as a cheap catcher in Coors. If Longoria is DHing, he's 4K. I certainly don't mind that. He's certainly taking a step back, but I think there's something left in the tank there. Perdomo is actually off to a pretty decent start this season.
Dude, he's hitting. He's hitting the ball.
He's up to 4K, but he was a good prospect coming up last year. They brought him up super early because Ahmed got injured last year. So they kind of rushed him to the big leagues, but he was a good prospect. I know he sucked last year, but he's been really good this year. Like 4K seems tough. He's not a huge power guy, but in Coors, man, those singles split the gaps and they turn into doubles and triples. Perdomo has plenty of speed to go for extra bases for sure. Marte has smashed lefties in his career. Gurriel is 4,200. I really like him. I don't know if Carroll is going to be in there lefty. I think he's the one bat you're going to get super low owned. Just like super prospect.
How do you take the dude out of the lineup right now?
Yeah, he's smashing. But he's 5,300 now, so I don't think people are going to play him lefty at that price tag. Sign me up if he's low owned.
Please don't play him. I will play him. I will have no like. He just like so he. I hate bunting. I hate bunting. I just want to make that very clear. Dude can bunt for a single and steal second and third. Like kind of unrealistic, but he has 4 stolen bases in his last 10 games. He has 10 stolen bases on the season. He's so incredibly fast that, I mean, even against a lefty like Freeland, you have to have interest in Corbin Carroll to steal bases. So, and like if you're playing the Arizona stack in general, you're kind of hoping Freeland doesn't get out of like the 4th or 5th inning, and you get into that bullpen that's not very good. That doesn't have a lot of lefties in it. Like I think they have 3. Potentially 4. I think they added a 4th lefty. So yeah, I mean, I have a ton of interest in Carroll lefty. I think he's going to be really low owned, and I think that's great. So, Colorado bats. I hate playing the Rockies bats. With that said, like, I think you could definitely play McMahon, Crone, Bryant, and then Profar, if he hits up towards the top, he's 3,400. He's a cheap bat that you could potentially get here. But yeah, I mean, I think Colorado is very much in play. Moustakas, if he's in there, he's 3K. Like, yeah.
Yep. I agree with everything you just said. Profar leading off at 3,400 would be very nice. Blackman's only 4K. Like, the Rockies are underpriced compared to what we usually see them at, in my opinion, just because they've been on the road probably for, seems like a couple of weeks now. Brenton Doyle is a prospect they've called up. He's hit a little bit since coming up. He's 2,900. No idea if he cracks the lineup here or not. But he does have some pedigree. Love the Moustakas call. I know he's not what he was, but he's still got some pop, and he's cheap, and he's in Coors Field. So yeah, I prefer the Arizona side, but Colorado's just as good. Certainly not afraid of Merrill Kelly.
No one's afraid of Kelly. No one at all. All right. I think we're moving on. Good game. A lot of bats. Cincinnati at Oakland. This game does not have a total. I mean, Sessa, we know for Cincinnati, but I've seen multiple reports here for Oakland, and everything that I've read, because I looked into it before we got rolling here, and everything I've read, it's either going to be Moeller throwing or Drew. Oh gosh, let's try it. Rosinski.
You did pretty good.
Yeah.
Rosinski.
So
yep.
I think it's going to be one of those two guys. Yeah, I mean, Rosinski pitched Sunday in a rehab start, so like if it kind of lines up, Sunday to Friday is 5 days. We'll start with Sessa though. Sessa, it's not been a good year for Sessa. I mean, one really bad start has kind of inflated his numbers. Just absolutely got crushed against Philadelphia, and they didn't stop pitching him, and they just kind of said, "Hey, we're gonna leave you out there." I mean, great matchup. Any interest here in Sessa against this Oakland team at 5,000?
I mean, I don't think so. Like, there's no leash here. I know Oakland stinks, but it's a great ballpark to pitch in. Matt, like, I don't think there is a bigger ballpark upgrade than going Cincinnati to Oakland, maybe Colorado to Oakland. So it's a huge upgrade in ballpark for him. I just don't see the upside here. He has been as high as 88 pitches in that kind of where they threw him to the Wolves, but he hasn't had a huge leash outside of that. 62 in his last one, 71 in the one before the blow up. Just no upside. He's not really a starting pitcher. I think they're just dealing with injuries, and they kind of threw him in the rotation as a necessity.
Yeah, I think I mean, over the weekend, if we get any of those like high strikeout like Cincinnati pitchers, they're going to be really interesting against Oakland. But Sessa, 8% K guy. He has a 6% swinging strike rate. He's not a big strikeout guy. And hey, listen, at least his advanced numbers definitely suggest some positive regression. But when you have a 10 ERA, it doesn't matter when you're 6 Sierra. So, yeah, I mean, I love facing Oakland. I like the price tag, but nope, not doing it. I don't know how to approach this Oakland side. If it's Moeller, I'm not playing him. Even against Cincinnati, he's not been good at all. Low strikeouts, high walks. Really, like, would potentially have interest in like Cincinnati as like a low-owned stack in that scenario. And then Drew, didn't he go over to Japan?
Japan
he
or
pitched
Korea,
in the KBO, right, for the last few years.
Yep. And he was pretty good over there.
Yeah.
But he hasn't thrown a ton. 3 AAA starts, it looks like. Struggled with the command a little bit. And he's only thrown 3 innings, and he's a little over 3 innings per start. I don't think there's a super long leash here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's him. I mean, it would make sense for him. It was a hamstring injury, so you can throw flat ground with a hamstring. You can't throw hard. I don't think I want to play him. I've done crazier things when you have a guy at this price point. Like, that's okay. The only reason I'm even talking about this is because the dude's 4K. We have Coors, we have Angels, we have plenty of bats on the slate. Cincinnati doesn't have a ton of power. I think they have the third fewest home runs against left-handed pitching this season. Like, realistically, at 4K, if he got you like 15 points, would you be happy with that on this slate? With the like lack of pitching that we have?
Yeah, I think you'd take 15 in a heartbeat. I'm like I said, I'm a little concerned about the leash. If he can get 4 innings, I have no idea what the strikeout rate's going to look like. He's a completely different pitcher than from when he was in the States many years ago. He wasn't a massive strikeout pitcher in Korea, but like if those rates translate to MLB, he'd be at least average at strikeouts. I kind of in AAA he's been below average. It was only 17% in his 9 AAA innings, so I kind of feel like he's going to be a contact guy, and he struggled with the command a little bit too. So I don't think I'm taking any shots here.
I think I think it all comes down to like how many lineups you build. One, like if you're playing him at all, make sure you have a hedge stack or 2 or 3. He was pitching in the PCL and he threw 179 pitches in those 3 rehab starts. So call it what, 50, 60, 70-ish? Like just like I don't have the numbers in front of me, but call it like what's that? That's 180. So it's probably pretty close. PCL, no, you don't want any pitcher in the PCL. So I don't know, man. Kind of like again, the only reason that I'm even bringing this up is because he's 4K, minimum salary. Looking at his KBO numbers, like, I mean, he was very stretched out in the KBO. He had really good swinging strikes in the KBO. Like, I love that, like, FanGraphs is, like, giving us KBO, like, swinging strikes and strikeouts and stuff now. Like, it's just fantastic. It really helps when you have guys kind of go over there. But even like his last couple years with like Miami, like in AAA and the majors, like he was around an 11% swinging strike rate. So call it a 20% strikeout rate, low power Cincinnati team. I think 15 points is potentially there. Like he's not a guy you're playing in like a main lineup, right? You're not playing him in like a 3-entry max. If you're playing 150 teams and you're trying to win a tournament and I want all the bats. I want Ohtani, I want Trout, I want Renfroe, I want every single bat that I want on this slate. With Jacob deGrom, that's the outlier, right? You want Jacob deGrom and you want these bats. I mean, if he gets you like 15 and your bats do their thing, you get home runs from those guys, it could work. I don't think it's the craziest thing. Like Cheese won $50,000 the other night with Waldichuk. I might take some shots here. So with all that said, the Cincinnati bats. Let's talk about these bats against him. Any interest here in any of these guys for Cincinnati?
Sean in the chat says, I kind of like a red stack Friday. I am completely with him. Regardless of who's pitching, I want to play some Reds. And it's not, first of all, I don't think whoever starts is going very deep, 4 innings max. And this Oakland bullpen is atrocious, absolutely terrible. We just saw what the Angels have done to them over the last 4 days. They've been chalk and they've smashed, seems like every single night. I'm playing some Cincinnati, no matter who starts. It's just the only slight difference is who I'm targeting most. If it's Rucinski, Fraley, and Friedel are going to be very high owned in my portfolio of lineups. If it's the lefty, Tyler Stevenson, Spencer Steer would be my priorities, but I'm playing full Cincinnati stacks today for sure. I know it's a massive ballpark downgrade, but Oakland bullpen sucks that bad that I don't care. I want to play some Cincinnati.
I really hope Nick Senzel cracks the lineup with a good spot. Really hope he cracks the lineup with a good spot because he's really cheap. He's been hitting the ball really solid here recently. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. Oakland side of this game, any interest here in Oakland?
Not as much. I will say they're very cheap, and Sessa has been awful. I didn't look at Cincinnati bullpen numbers. I can't imagine that they're too good. So just another really bad pitching staff, another starting pitcher that isn't going to go deep. I don't know if they have the upside to win as the full 5-man stack on an 11-game slate, but I think as 3 cheap correlated secondary stack, I think they're very much in play. Langeliers at Phil's catcher at 3,200. I think he's in play. Rooker's been on fire. Prefer him against lefties. Prefer all these Oakland guys against lefties generally. But Rooker's been outstanding. Like his StatCast data is backing up what he's been doing. So I think there's a true breakout coming in his late 20s here. The rest of them are just free. Like Aledmus Diaz, Jace Peterson, if he's in the lineup. Asturi Ruiz, we saw him steal 4 bases earlier this week. So just like, and he's a guy that stole 80 bases in the minors in one season. So just huge speed from Ruiz. Aguilar has cheap power. Noda has cheap power. Jordan Diaz has cheap power and is a good contact hitter. Capel, like they're all 2K. So I will pick out my favorite 3, whatever 3 fit the positions that I need. I'll use some Oakland for sure.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Ruiz calls fantastic. Roker just, keeps doing his thing. Really doesn't matter if it's righty or lefty. He just kind of keeps doing his thing. So very underrated hitter, and his price went down. Keeps hitting, price goes down. That's what happens when you play for Oakland. All right, we finish it out with St. Louis, Adelaide taking on the Dodgers. Flaherty and May facing off against each other. 8.5 total in this game. The Dodgers a 144 favorite. This game opened at 158. It's been bet down to 144. Any interest here in Jack Flaherty against the Dodgers?
I don't know what to do with Jack Flaherty.
No one in baseball knows what to do with Jack Flaherty.
You're right. I think this Dodgers lineup is bad at this point right now until Muncy.
But do we get people back this game?
They're on the verge, but
right.
I think Muncy's still out. He's on paternity
but
list.
He's expected to rejoin. I'm pretty sure. I thought I read a thing that Muncy is expected to be back, and then they said that Will Smith Saturday, I think, is when he's expected to be activated from concussion. And then the other thing that I read was JD Martinez hasn't been able to swing a bat with the back injury.
I read the Martinez thing, and I am now seeing the Muncy expected back. That's a huge deal. That kind of stinks. I had some interest in Flaherty. Muncy being back changes, like it just lengthens the lineup so much. Like they've been hitting Jason Hayward third for crying out loud. Like I was ready to take some shots on Jack Flaherty just because there is some potential there. But when you slot Muncy in there behind Betts and Freeman, it's a much more difficult. Plus what Outman's been doing. It's much more difficult to get through it. I still think Flaherty's in play, but I was talking like take a massive stance on him just because I thought the Dodgers lineup was that bad. There's still upside here. He did strike out 9 Seattle bats in his last start. We were talking earlier in the pod about how much we like the Seattle offense. So there's still talent here. He doesn't exactly know where the ball's going all the time at this point. I'll take some shots at 8,200. I certainly prefer Fried for 500 less. I certainly prefer a couple guys in the 9K range, but I think Flaherty's in play.
Yeah. I mean, the Dodgers made Contreras look like Cy Young the other night.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do with the Dodgers. Muncy getting back is huge. Like you mentioned, it's going to make that top 4 or 5 really strong. I will like the Dodgers a lot more when they get Smith back. They go from like a 4 deep lineup to like a 5 deep lineup with Smith, and I think that's huge in the majors. Because you could potentially throw a guy in there like a Peralta in between these guys somewhere, and it kind of extends the lineup a little bit. Bush is a really talented prospect too. Like he has a lot of power in AAA, and I've been waiting for him to get called up. I think everyone's kind of been waiting for him to get called up. So he is potentially a talented hitter. And then like I think we have to like recognize like Trace Thompson's actually been hitting the ball really well this year. So my thing with like Flaherty in general right now is he just cannot stop walking people. Like the walk rate is the biggest concern. The command is the biggest concern. He's had 1 walk in 1 start, and that was against Colorado. And every other start, he's had at least 2. He's giving up home runs. He's not generating a ton of strikeouts or ground balls anymore. I'm on the fence. I think Muncy being back is enough for me to say I probably won't play him. But hey, what do I know? I played Kyle Gibson on Thursday. Dustin May. I hope you all listened to me with Dustin May. I said that like there was a lot of regression coming, and it kind of hit here against the Mets, and the Cubs were on the verge of doing it as well, and they couldn't put together some hits. I love the Cardinals as a sneaky stack today. I don't think Dustin May is good. The Cardinals are a very sound lineup. We were just talking about how like 4 or 5 deep is really good. This team is deep. If DeJong keeps hitting, this team is going to be feared in the playoffs. And I know chat's
They
going to
got
get
to make it
excited,
there
and
first,
Keith is
Stevie.
like, they're going to make it to the playoffs. Come on, man. Come on. I know you're a Cubs fan, but come on.
Have you seen the Pirates record here recently?
Come on. It's the Pirates.
I'm being facetious.
Reynolds
with the
can't
Pirates,
carry a team forever.
The Cubs are sneaky, though. They better start turning it on quickly, or they're going to have a fight on their hands.
I don't think the Brewers can do it all season. I definitely don't think the Pirates can do it all season. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if, like, I don't know, like, the National League is kind of deep if you think about it in general, too. I mean, like, the East, the Braves, the Mets. I don't know how I would really rank the Phillies and Marlins up there, but, like, the West, too. Like, you got the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants, the Diamondbacks out of nowhere. But anyway, just saying, like, the St. Louis lineup is really good. I don't think Dustin May has it right now. I mean, that's at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think Dustin May is a bad pitcher, but I think he's someone that can struggle, and the Cardinals can put a couple crooked numbers here.
Yeah, I have no interest in playing Dustin May. I didn't have a ton of interest in Cardinals. You talked me onto it a little bit. Like, they're still expensive. Like, getting up to Goldschmidt and Arenado is tough. Gorman, I love at 4,200.
Dude, this is the type of pitcher you love to target. Walks turn into home runs, turn into runs.
Yeah,
and I've been doing shows with you long enough to know a guy struggling with command makes Keith get all excited.
It does. And he's not striking anybody out either, which is not typical for him. Looking at the Cardinals pricing here, outside of Goldschmidt and Arenado, they're pretty cheap. So yeah, I didn't originally have interest. I knew I wasn't playing May, but I didn't have a ton of interest in St. Louis. I like what we're seeing here. DeJong has been crushing the ball, and he's 2,200. Tyler O'Neill, big power, 3,700. Donovan probably leading off at 3,800. Edmund can steal a base, 3,800. Like, I think I pick one of Goldschmidt, Arenado, probably go Goldschmidt in that, like, most times in that toss up. And then I play guys like Gorman, Donovan, O'Neill, even Carlson and DeJong, and like, it's a pretty affordable stack once you do it that way.
Yeah, DeJong opens everything up. And if he hits towards the bottom of the lineup, maybe his ownership stays down a little bit, but they're on the road, guaranteed that ninth. I still like his chances to get 4 at bats in this game. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you're really hoping for at least 4 at bats on most of your players. And I think, like, if the stack is kind of doing its thing, DeJong is an interesting, like, cash game shortstop, in my opinion, today. He's just so cheap. He opens up things, however you want to kind of approach the slate. Other side of this game, any interest in the Dodgers bats here?
Yeah, I mean, with the way Flaherty has struggled, I think you can certainly take shots. That's if Muncy's back. If we have Jason Hayward hitting third again, probably not. But Outman at 4,100 is jumping off the page as a great price. Betts and Freeman are elite. You can certainly play them. Thought we'd get a little bigger discount on Muncy, having missed some time here. He's $5K, but I definitely like lefties against Flaherty. So he's been out for a while, but I'm fine paying for Muncy. It's an expensive stack. So I don't know if I do go full 5-man, but like a Muncy Outman and then find a value piece. Like, if Bush cracks the lineup, I love that, especially since he can play second. Trace Thompson is really cheap. You talked about some of his hard hit data is really good. So you can find enough cheap pieces here. David Peralta, if he's in the lineup, but probably a 3-man more than, like, I'm not stacking Betts, Freeman, Muncy, Outman. It just makes it really tough to get up to the pitching. But I think using a couple of value pieces with 1 or 2 of the big bats works.
All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we will get out of here. Did you know that we have a morning grind league that I try to run every single day during the week? If you want to join in on that, you can search my Twitter. Maybe I'll tweet out a link today or Monday. I always forget to do it, but you can join that. It's like a 50-man. We do like a top 10 win. You're not going to get rich off of it. It's just fun. I always like going through and looking at, like, what people are running for lineups. I find it fun. Like, I find it fun. I donated the last couple days. You guys are welcome. Especially yesterday. Ooh, my lineup yesterday was bad.
I donated once last week. I'll try to jump in it again.
Yeah, there you go. Jump in it. It's fun. Have I done the? Yeah, I've done the league every single day this week. I haven't tweeted it out, so make sure you join the league, and then you'll get a notification on DraftKings. Derek. All right, morning grind game. That was all to kind of give myself a chance. Under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts. Who do you like today?
This one's pretty easy for me. It's Wade Miley.
What? Wait, what?
Oh,
I'm so
sorry. Under
confused.
8K. I did that backwards. I thought.
Okay.
Woo! That's my second.
All right. First of all, I was super confused that you were picking Miley for strikeouts, and second of all, I didn't even know that he was under 8K.
Yes, my bad. I read the answer to the wrong question. Under 8K for 6 strikeouts. I'm going to take a shot on Manoah.
Boom.
Alek Manoah. I know it's like he hasn't been great. He's a better pitcher than 6,900. It's really more about the price. He's not a huge strikeout guy, and Seattle doesn't strike out a ton. But he's a guy I'm going to take some shots on, despite having a really tough year so far.
All right, give me Max Fried, and you're going over 8K. You're going Wade Miley. That was funny,
That's
but
the answer to the question.
Dude, I think this is kind of a hot take, but give me Aaron Nola to go under 15.
Don't hate it.
Over 4,000 in home run, not in cores. Give me someone that's not in cores that you like to go yard today.
I love this guy against lefties so much. Tough ballpark, but give me Austin Riley.
All right. I just posted the link to the league in chat, and then you can join the league there, and then you'll be able to join the game. Because I think I just posted it. Because I do it now, so I don't forget. Anyway, my home run today, Hunter Renfroe. I know everyone's shocked. Under 4K to get 2 hits today. Who do you got?
I'm going Cincinnati here. If it's Rucinski, Friedel, like I saw Rucinski as the projected starter, so give me TJ Friedel. If it's a lefty, I probably don't like that as much. If it's Mueller, I'll stay same team. Give me Spencer Steer.
All right. DeJong has multi-hits in 2 or 3 of his 5 games since being called up. He's 2,200. I'm going to roll out Paul DeJong today as my cheap hitter. Give me a stack to score 6 or more runs today.
I'm sticking with Cincinnati. I think the Oakland bullpen is actually as bad as they've been pitching. All the underlying metrics are atrocious. Sierra is up around 6. Their strikeout rate is under 16% as an entire bullpen. Bullpens usually have like 28% strikeout rates. Oakland has like a 16% strikeout rate. They're real bad. Cincinnati can put up some runs here.
Low-key Dodgers, bottom 5 bullpen this season. Give me the St. Louis Cardinals today against Dustin May in this bad Dodgers bullpen. They've really not been good. I mean, they have one of the highest whips. They're allowing a ton of hits. They've allowed over 100 hits. Oakland and Dodgers are the only 2 teams in baseball to allow 100+ hits out of the bullpen this year. So give me the Cardinals as a sneaky 6+ runs today. So Keith, it's been a long one, but it's been fun. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, got to go recap this NFL draft and see how everything shook out. Was trying to follow along, but yeah, fun night. Celtics advance. Good for them. They have a pretty easy path to the championship now, right? Not to the championship, to the finals.
Yeah, I think I don't know. This playoffs, I'm not locking anything in this playoffs. I think this playoffs has been
point. Nobody had Miami
fantastic.
beating Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even Giannis missed a couple games, but Jimmy Butler just did Jimmy Butler things, man. Like,
yep.
NFL draft. I think the Eagles, man. I think that defense is already great, and I mean they added 2 really potential game changers to that defense. So, watch out for that. Yeah. My Dolphins don't have a pick, so I don't really care. But excited for Richardson to be a Colt. I think that, again, like if he can figure out how to be an NFL quarterback, I think it's a fantastic upside. I think he has a huge ceiling. So that's going to wrap it up for Friday. It's been fun. It's been a great week. Hope everyone had a great week. Hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. If you're playing NASCAR, make sure you head on over to NASCAR Premium here over this weekend. Some potential weather. Love potential weather weekends because I always think there's an edge when we don't have practice and qualifying. I love that kind of stuff. So that's going to wrap it up. Hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday.